Can you play Warwick Bot Lane? I wouldn't have thought it was possible, but apparently the answer is yes. There is this Grandmaster Warwick player, and at first sight they don't look too special. They are spamming Warwick top lane, and top lane is nothing out of the ordinary for Warwick. However, when you look a little closer, you will see something rather peculiar. When this player doesn't get their main position and is instead assigned to the AD carry role, they do not simply dodge. They also do not just play a marksman champion for these games. They instead play Warwick AD carry. How can Warwick survive in such a hostile environment? How can you get anything done while a support player and a ranged marksman champion are harassing you for free with superior range? Well, I wouldn't be surprised if after watching this video you feel the sudden urge to try Warwick AD carry yourself. But before you do that, make sure to install the buff.game app, who are sponsoring today's video, so you can at least collect some buff points even if you end up feeding with this unusual pick. The buff app keeps track of your in-game progress while smoothly running in the background. All you need to do is simply play League of Legends as usual, and you get rewarded with buff points for just playing the game and even more for completing challenges. You can then spend these buff points on actual prizes such as Riot points or Amazon gift cards, which allows you to unlock the latest skins for your favorite champions simply by playing your favorite game. Now you might be asking yourself how giving free stuff to their users could ever be a sustainable business model. Well, it's quite simple. Like most freemium products, Buff are making money with ads and paid subscriptions, and they then give some of that value back to their user base. It's a win-win situation, and it doesn't cost you anything. The Overwolf app is very safe, and since Buff runs on the Overwolf platform, you can be 100% sure that Buff is just as safe to use. The app is also not limited to just League of Legends. Playing other popular games like CSGO or Valorant, for example, will also allow you to collect more buff points. If you join Buff this month and use my personal link in the video description or in the pinned comment, you will start with 100 buff points right away instead of just 30. So you get ready and download the app, and I get back to Warwick AD carry. The most crucial aspect of bot lane Warwick is the laning phase. Warwick is surprisingly squishy for a melee champion and cannot really do anything when your opponents are exerting pressure from a safe distance. However, there is a strategy that allows you to play around this early disadvantage, and the key is to simply not attack the wave at all on levels 1 and 2 until it crashes into your tower. Missing out on early CS feels bad, but it actually doesn't do all that much harm as long as you soak up all the experience, which is way more important than gold. The enemy will push guaranteed even when they just go for last hits, which ultimately enables you to farm close to your tower. Against tank supports, who cannot poke you, this is surprisingly easy. The real struggle starts when you have to face ranged support champions, but even these are manageable. You just need to stay far enough back to avoid their effective range while still remaining within experience range from your dying minions. And even when you get hit, it is not the end of the world, since your runes, items and Warwick's abilities provide you with plenty of health regeneration. But before we go deep into the runes and items, let's continue to analyze bot lane Warwick's laning phase, because it is by far the most important aspect of the pick. By letting the minions accumulate, the lane will perpetually be in a slow pushing state. Just like a pendulum, huge minion waves will push towards your tower before swinging back to the enemy's tower, and then the cycle starts all over again. With this wave manipulation tactic, you will be able to consistently farm huge stacked minion waves, while minimizing the time in which the enemy has a realistic chance to abuse their range advantage. However, the urgent question here is why? Why would you suffer through a lane phase like this? What is the payoff? I will tell you. Warwick has some very intriguing advantages over regular marksman champions. As soon as you learn how to manage the wave and secure CS with the aforementioned strategy, you can reap the full benefits of piloting one of the most menacing duelists in the game. Not only that, but since the wave is never freezable, the enemy will regularly be overextended as the wave pushes towards your tower, opening them up for devastating jungle ganks. While it would be extremely risky for a regular marksman champion to fight in a stacked enemy minion wave, Warwick literally doesn't care, as he can either nullify minion aggro with his AoE fear or simply use the minions to apply his innate lifesteal. But as I've said, Warwick is one of the best duelists in the game, and you certainly don't need your jungler's help to kill enemies who are either getting greedy or impatient. And greed and impatience are huge opportunities for Warwick's punish game. His damage reduction on E and his innate lifesteal, which increases on low health, will frequently bait your enemies into fights which they ultimately cannot win due to your sustain and dueling power. You can almost see the greed in Lucian's eyes as he tries to finish off the low health Warwick just to fall short due to Warwick's E-spell. Lucian used all his cooldowns, including his flash, simply because he is used to playing against regular marksmen while having little to no experience in the Warwick matchup. And as soon as your enemy wastes all their cooldowns like that, they are effectively a sitting duck. With his massive level 3 power spike, Warwick can simply chase them down for the kill while the enemy has no chance to fight back. But I have not even yet shown you how obscenely broken a duelist Warwick truly is when you compare his early game to standard marksman champions. Here, Warwick and his support are getting ganked by the enemy Graves. Any regular ADC would have had no chance here, but the combination of Warwick's enormous single target DPS, his fear and his lifesteal allow him to kill Graves before Nautilus can even join. Turning a 3 vs 2 gank like this into a 1-for-1 trade is just massive. It's a huge win for your team, since you ended up trading evenly despite the enemy allocating their jungler's resources to the bot lane. Now imagine what happens when the enemy jungler is not there to help. In regular fair and square 2v2 bot lane skirmishes, the opposing laners will get absolutely obliterated by Warwick's enormous dueling power. Nautilus thinks he sees an opening to engage on the slightly overextended Senna support, but Warwick can simply go for a nasty counter-engage with his AoE crowd control, turning the situation around completely. With the sustain and damage from your Q and your attack speed increasing against low health enemies, your victim has no chance to survive in a situation like this. But this is not even your final form. Warwick AD Carry has one of the craziest level 6 power spikes in all of bot lane. Warwick's dueling tools are already quite strong, but as soon as you unlock his ultimate, Warwick's power is taken to the next level. Even in the worst case scenario, where the enemy support is able to cancel your ult prematurely with crowd control, Warwick's damage and follow-up potential is so insane that the fight is just won regardless. As long as that ultimate connects in the first place, the enemy will have such a hard time getting out of melee range again. And when they cannot do that, your AoE fear in combination with Warwick's sustain and attack speed will be the final nail in the coffin. That's just how powerful he is in these situations. It is so extremely imbalanced in bot lane skirmishes that it is actually a mistake for the enemy to ever engage on you. What happens when a regular AD carry face tanks a Nautilus hook? That's right, they are dead. What happens when Warwick face tanks a Nautilus hook? Well, congratulations, you are now a Warwick in melee range, which is exactly where you want to be. You immediately start beating them down with your Q and your auto attacks, while taking reduced damage yourself due to your E and forcing them to respect the potential AoE fear. But when you have access to Warwick's ultimate, running is not an option for them, they just die. As you see, when you play towards your champion's strengths, Warwick's lane phase can be absolutely brutal. But what do you do outside of lane phase? How can Warwick fulfill the role of a ranged damage dealer? Is your team's late game now doomed? This is an interesting question, but surprisingly enough, Warwick has striking similarities to regular marksmen once lane phase is over. In any team, the AD carry is the champion who provides consistent follow-up damage from range when their allies find an opening. Funnily enough, Warwick's ultimate is a ranged attack and can be treated exactly as such. You group with your team, but instead of right-clicking the enemy frontline when a fight breaks out, you just press R. Due to your massive single target DPS, your victim will drop very quickly, and then you are in the perfect position to continue with your AoE fear and win the fight with numbers advantage. Another task a marksman needs to handle is providing consistent DPS against barons and dragons. This one should be almost self-explanatory. You are Warwick, your champion is literally designed to take down these monsters, so your team won't be lacking in any way, shape or form. Also, just like a regular AD carry, Warwick is auto-attack based, which means playing teamfights front to back and dealing with enemy tanks is quite easy. Warwick is arguably even better at this than standard marksman champions, since the most consistent counterplay for the enemy tank is to lock down the AD carry with crowd control to kill them. But with Warwick's innate tankiness and his own crowd control, this strategy is completely thwarted. The champion right-clicks his targets until they die, and he does it surprisingly effectively. Even outside of teamfights, Warwick doesn't at all mind applying standard ADC strategies. You can play the macro game pretty much like any other marksman, including the standard rotation pattern of push past river roam. With Titanic Hydra, clearing waves is super easy, and your W movement speed bonus allows you to quickly rejoin your team as soon as a fight breaks out. This mid-game ADC strategy is just as, if not even more effective when playing Warwick AD carry. I'm saying that not only because your rotations are faster than those of typical marksmen, but also because of a second advantage. You see, there is a reason why the advice is to just push past river and then rotate. The reason is that marksmen are highly vulnerable when pushing side lanes by themselves, and you want to rotate before the enemy can collapse and kill you. But for Warwick AD carry, this disadvantage just outright doesn't exist. In the mid and late game, Warwick is not at all easy to kill, and he can in fact stand his ground even against designated enemy split pushers. Any marksman champion would have to leave the lane here right away, or else they would simply risk getting one-shot by the level 12 Riven. But not Warwick. Your overall bulk and your innate lifesteal make it impossible for Riven to actually threaten you, and any extended duel is just not winnable for her when facing off against the duelist monster that is Warwick. Of course, there are scenarios in which even Warwick cannot simply muscle his way through, but you have to keep in mind that your ultimate is also a very strong disengage tool. Here, Warwick gets hit by the classic 4-man collapse, and any regular marksman champion would simply be dead. Warwick's ultimate, however, is unstoppable during startup, rendering the opposing engage tools completely useless, while at the same time creating enough distance for you to safely get away. Your ultimate is a highly flexible and extremely powerful tool, and the sole reason Warwick AD carry can work in the first place. It is a massive increase to your effective range, and any enemy who doesn't respect it will die. It is your main way of contributing to teamfights and allows you to do many of the things an AD carry needs to be able to do. However, compared to the tools of other marksman champions, Warwick's ultimate also has its unique drawbacks, which enemies can abuse and exploit. The main problem you have to keep in mind is the fact that, unlike other marksmen, Warwick has to commit extremely hard in order to provide any meaningful follow-up. Your ultimate is your most important tool in the mid and late game, and once you press it, there is no turning back. Not only can you waste and miss it, putting it on cooldown and greatly decreasing your usefulness until it comes back, but you can also outright die for such a mistake. Something that looks like a promising opening might just end up being an elaborate bait, leaving you overextended in a 1v3 situation. You have to be very careful with this spell, and your best bet for guaranteed value in teamfights is to just use it as a follow-up tool instead of getting ahead of yourself. And as good as Warwick AD carry can look under the right circumstances, there is no denying it. You will eventually get outscaled if the enemy marksman is a proper late game hypercarry. Especially when they have backup, so you cannot counter-engage, they can kite you around infinitely and kill you absolutely for free. I say this just as a caveat because I don't want to imply that Warwick AD carry would be like a sleeper OP pick that you can abuse for free wins. He isn't. He is hard to play, and the pick does have its weaknesses. Anyway, before we talk about the optimal runes and items, I also have to say something about summoner spells. Warwick is extremely strong when you are on low HP, since your passive applies 250% lifesteal to itself when your health is below 25%. This is crazy value, but the problem is of course that the enemy can burst you down easily when you are that low. Due to that, your optimal summoner spells with Warwick are always Flash in combination with Barrier. The shield from Barrier protects you from getting bursted down while you are technically still on low health, which means you get all the upside from your passive with none of the downsides. The baiting potential with this combo is insane. Enemies will get greedy and pick fights, and they will fall short when they try to kill you due to the Barrier shield in combination with all the health from your passive. In fact, Barrier even has further synergies with the optimal bot lane Warwick rune page. You go for Lethal Tempo, Presence of Mind, Legend Tenacity and Last Stand with Revitalize and Second Wind secondary. Your shards are double Adaptive Force and Armor. With Revitalize, your Barrier shield and your lifesteal are inherently buffed, and even more so when you cast Barrier on low health, in which case the buff from Revitalize is much stronger. Additionally, those Barrier fights on low health are even better for you when you factor in Last Stand. You suddenly deal much more damage just by playing to your strengths, as this rune kicks into full gear almost at the same time as your passive. Warwick is kinda forced to play frontline as soon as you join teamfights with your ultimate, so Legend Tenacity is a form of insurance which enables you to actually apply your damage and lifesteal. The enemy will try to lock you down since burst damage is the best counter against champions who thrive in longer duels, and Tenacity allows you to fix this issue. Quick side note, yes, I am talking about lifesteal a lot here, but I am of course aware that Warwick's passive is not the same as the actual lifesteal stat. However, they indeed play out the same way, so I just chose these words for the sake of simplicity. But yeah, speaking of longer fights, Warwick of course loves the keystone of lethal tempo, since he is an auto-attack based champion and can stack up this rune rather quickly. Your passive actually deals enormous amounts of on-hit damage, and the attack speed boost from lethal tempo just goes with it perfectly. Simply the best keystone for optimal DPS in teamfights. The rune's second wind is also very important for Warwick's game plan, since it makes dealing with poke damage during the lane phase much more bearable. You even combine it with the starting item Doran's Shield for maximum poke protection, which is crucial so you can still get as much CS as possible without getting poked out of lane too easily. Interestingly enough, you should not go for a mythic item right away when playing Warwick, but instead start off your core build with Titanic Hydra. This item provides huge on-hit damage and tankiness, both of which are highly important when playing Warwick. Additionally, Titanic Hydra gives you a form of wave clear, fixing one of the biggest issues with Warwick's kit and unlocking the push past river roam strategy. As I've said before, an AD carry's job is to provide damage against objectives, and Baron and Dragon are of course not the only objectives on the map. Taking down towers quickly is also very important, and unlike similar effects, the on-hit damage from Hydra works against towers as well. You round out your core build with Defensive Boots and Divine Sunderer. Sundera's health directly feeds into the damage from Titanic Hydra, it provides magic and armor penetration, amplifying your autos and your on-hit effects, and its Sheen passive works perfectly with your main spell, which is Q. All of this makes Sunderer the optimal mythic item for Warwick, and Sunderer in general is just a strong item since we are in a tank meta right now and it is designed to shred tanks. This core build is pretty much all Warwick needs to function properly, so you can add any tank or utility item afterwards. However, the most standard options that will do extremely well in most games are Death's Dance, Wit's End and Thornmail. Death's Dance further protects you from burst damage, giving you more time to heal back up with your passive. The armor is highly valuable in most matchups too, and when you combine it with Wit's End's magic resist, you end up with a very well-rounded bruiser build. Wit's End of course is also a huge source of damage for Warwick. The attack speed works perfectly with your passive, allowing you to apply it more consistently, and Wit's End's own on-hit damage greatly buffs every aspect of Warwick's offensive presence. Thornmail for your last item gives you the best odds of going head-to-head with the opposing AD carry in the late game, but again, your itemization after Hydra and Sunderer is very flexible and you can buy whatever works best against the enemy team composition. Now of course, the laning phase will be what makes or breaks this pick for you. Having a solid fundamental understanding of how laning in the bot lane works is a mandatory requirement before you can make Warwick AD carry work. Just in case you need to brush up on your game knowledge, you can get a complete breakdown of how to optimally play the bot lane by clicking the link on your screen right there.